Right, in this program, course 3 of the online learning, we're looking at counter weapons. Namely, we're looking at counter knife, and we're looking at it from a UK perspective, where primarily, if you had to deal with somebody with a blade, you're looking at an unarmed response. So the first thing to understand is there's absolutely no guarantees within any martial method, whether it's combative, self-protection, reality, self-defense, martial art, combat sport, whatever it is. There's absolutely zero guarantee of successfully dealing with a blade unarmed without getting injured. So first of all, let's make sure that that's clearly understood. The best way of dealing with a knife is fucking don't be there. So the very first thing that I teach in what we call the On the Sharp Edge program, which is specific to counter knife, is early recognition that there's possibly a knife threat. First thing that you want to do is assume in any confrontational situation that you find yourself in, two things. First, there's likely to be a weapon. And second, there's likely to be more than one assailant. And what you're seeing now is multiple armed assailants. So if you're living in a Commonwealth country where you are unlawfully forbidden to carry any tool for the purpose of self-protection and you are unarmed, you can clearly see that you are practically fucking defenseless. But with that said, you need to arm yourself with the knowledge, at least, of how such situations occur, and out of that sheer desperation, what could you possibly do about it if you were caught unarmed? First thing that this program looks at is the kind of MO or modus operandi of how somebody with a blade usually operates. So the saying that was legendary 20 plus years ago was, a shower won't usually stab and a stabber won't usually show. So what that means is a shower, somebody who shows you the knife for the point of intimidation, 20 years ago was geared around the fact that they want something from you. So they want a purpose of robbery, your wallet, cash point card, your car keys, whatever else. In such a case where if you gave up your shit, the likelihood or the probability back then, at least, was that you'd get away relatively unscathed. Now that's not so. Now, if somebody shows you a blade in a threatening sense and you still give up your shit, there's a high probability that you will still get cut, simply because these are the kind of people that are walking around in society today do it simply because they can. The other end of that saying is still apt today as it was 20 years ago, and that is a stabber won't usually show. And basically what that means is if somebody wants to stab you, they need to get close to you, and they're going to kind of secret the weapon from view, and then they're going to attack you out of an ambush, and then it will be a relentless blitzkrieg. That's going to give the highest probability of success. Think about any prison film you've seen where somebody's been stabbed. As long as the film is kind of a realistic in its creation, then you will most likely see a stabbing out of an ambush, and that is somebody just fucking is on you, stabbing you relentlessly like a sewing machine. Well, if you get attacked with any kind of bladed article out of an ambush, then the thing to understand is that you're getting cut. What happens next depends on where you've been cut, how badly you're hurt, and whether or not you can break the mental freeze and the shock to do anything at all to fight back. So there's a lot of fucking what ifs there. What I teach first of all is understanding the kind of knife as MO. So let's go first of all with the probability that 90+% of the population are right-handed. It's the right hand that you're going to worry about, but in short, it's the hands that you want to worry about. So if somebody's in proximity to you and they're aggressive looking and they're intimidating, understand that the face will intimidate and the hands will fucking kill you. So be aware of where the hands are. What I talk about in this part is holder, weapon holder. So the difference between a brandish and a holder is brandish is this, maybe some distance and pull the blade and I threaten and I ask for something. Whereas hold up is where I've got close and now I'll hold him up with the weapon, wherever. Maybe I hold him here, maybe I hold him here, or wherever else. But I've got close enough to be tactile with the tool. If you've got yourself into a situation like that, then obviously there's a huge lapse in awareness, which we talked about, but shit can happen and you need a contingency plan. The first thing to understand is how you're going to feel. So if you're caught by surprise and all of a sudden you've got cold steel cutting into your neck and it's up in your face, or it's visual and you can see it pressed against you while this person is demanding whatever in a very vehement way, then you will feel scared. The immediate, be an immediate fast intake of breath, where you probably hold the breath, blood will withdraw from your extremities, your legs and hands will shake, and it will also withdraw from the frontal neocortex of your brain, which means you'll basically be left with the intelligence of a dog. All you know is fight, flight or freeze. If you've never anticipated such a situation before by visualization, by training, by scenario training or something like that, and you've had no recollection or understanding that something like this could happen to you, then your subconscious brain has no answer. It has no answer in the data bank files, and there's a high probability that you will freeze. And if you are a student of combatives, then you should train for said scenarios and contingency plans, as we talked about. But the first thing to understand is you will feel fucking scared. So what you do needs to be very simple, very gross motor. Okay? The problem with a weapon hold-up is your response can't necessarily be immediate, particularly if the blade is by you, or it's touching part of your anatomy, because you need to assess where it is first before you apply the principles that I'm going to give you. Now, the principles that relate to any kind of weapon hold-up would first of all be, if he's placed it here to the side of my neck, it's tactile. I understand it would be role play in your training, because you'd be, although not allowed to attract attention, you'd be quiet, you'd be sinister, you'd be demanding, you'd be pushing this into you in a tactile way. You would definitely have the feeling of adrenaline hit your body hard here. Very first thing you need to do is get your hands in proximity to where the weapon is. They're no good here, because any sudden movement from here is just going to cut me. So you need to get them in a very passive way where the weapon is. So if it was here, this is where my hands would be. If he's put it this side, this is where my hands would be. If it's up and under my chin, this is where my hands would be. If he's put it low to my groin, my hands will be in proximity to the weapon. So the first thing is get hands in proximity to where the weapon is in a very non-violent, non-threatening looking way, and set it, right? So for me, if he's demanding money, I'll be telling him, mate, I'll give you my money, I want it in my pocket, whatever else. You're going to use deception here, right? The next thing to do when you start to become physically dynamic is the priority is to clear the line of assault. So clearing the line of assault simply relates to getting this away from me and me away from it as quickly as I can. And whilst I do that, I need to be doing it with my hands. The next part of this is the crucial part, which is seize the weapon-bearing limb. So whatever I clear it with, I need to maintain hold of it. There's no point in me clearing it and then starting to do something else, and now it just cuts me open, stabs me. So hands in proximity to the weapon, clear the line of assault, seize the limb. From here now, just blitzkrieg with whatever's available. So in this case, I've got this shot here, I'm head until I feed him down to the back of the brainstem. What's very important within UC, which you'll learn literally in the very first 3 months of training, is that you learn to use your hard skill physical tools left and right. So in the case of this, if he's attacking me in this way, help me up in this way, when I clear the line and seize the limb here, it's my left hand that's free, not my right hand. I'm not going to have somebody be able to go, oh yeah, do this. No, you need to be able to operate from where you are. In some situations, you might, if I clear the line here with both hands, then both hands are redundant. I've got literally a death grip on this weapon-bearing limb, and there's no way I'm going to like release one hand or do something fancy with the other. So here my hands are tied up, which now I've got to see what's the closest weapon to the nearest target. Well, I've got this here, stomp, look at this head, like this fucking hand, and then operate off that. So the principles are not set in stone. It's not left big toe here, right big toe there. They're principle based, which opens a variety of options, right? So in the case of clearing here, it's the left side that's free. In the case of clearing here, it's my head butt on my knee that's free. You've got to use whatever weapon is available to the closest target and attack immediately. Seizing the weapon bearing as you go. So to recap the principles, get hands in proximity to the tool, hands in proximity to the weapon. Clear the weapon bearing limb by moving it away and you away from it. Seize the limb, and from next to it's continuous with whatever tool you've got available. These are the principles that we're going to look at for this segment on knife hold up. Whoa! What's important is that whatever you practice in terms of counter response, the majority of the training that you spend on the said simulation or scenario is impactive. So 80% of your training wants to be geared around hitting things hard. So you're cutting the correct neuromuscular pathway. When shit and fan meet and you're no longer cognitive and you can't think, then subconsciously you will go with what you do in the majority, if that makes sense. And what you do in the majority wants to be hitting fucking things hard. That's why 80% of our work is impactive. If you look at the pattern, you'll see that. 20% of the way that we train, 10% of that 20% would be part of crossover. So part of crossover would be, he holds me up at the tool, here, I go through the motions, but I've got to pull my shot. I've got to pull my shot. Because you won't appreciate it, you run out of training partners very quickly and this is fucking turn next. So excessive force would be reciprocal, right? So if I'm just pulling my shot as the only type of training I'm doing, then that's what I'm doing in the majority. What the fuck do you think is going to come out if somebody holds you up for real? You're going to pull your shot. So you can't. The only reason that you use part of crossover is for target acquisition. So in this case here, when I clear this line, I want that brainstem. I want the back of his head. Can you do it again? So in this case here, when I clear this line, I want the back of his head. I want to feel what that feels like in my hand, but I can't hit it the way I should hit it. So all I'm going to do is just use the hand. So in this case, he's got a pad on his left hand and he's got a simulated blade on his right hand. We're going to use this example of a knife hold up from the side. Of course, it could be from the front, it could be from the rear, it could be seated, it could be holding it to your balls while you're at the fucking catch point. Any number of methods should be practiced. I'm just showing you this method to give you an understanding of the principles and how you would train them. So once you've done some part of the crossover and you understand what you're doing, he's going to do exactly the same thing, but instead of grabbing me with the clothing with his hands, placing the pad to my shoulder where he would be grabbing me. He's using a knife. I'm getting my hands in proximity to the tool, but now when I clear the line and squeeze the limb, he's offering me a target instead of his head. And from here, that hits him until he's down, and I can hit the way I should hit. So 80% of your work, once the principle is understood after part of crossover, should be done via a pad. In which case now you can hit the way you would hit. Right? Then you might put it into simulation, whereby now he uses some sort of helmet. But any helmet like this is no good to stop the impact. We have a couple of helmets that we've used over the years that do allow you a higher degree of impact. What all this will do is stop any type of facial injury. So example, if I was to elbow him in the face, I'd probably cut his face and also impactively shake his brain. Whereas if he's got this on, it won't cut his face. There'll be no superficial injury, although it would still shake his brain. So although you're using kit, you still need to pull your shot to a degree. So 10% of the training in a drill like this would be part of the work, like feeling the contours of his skull and his head. 80% of my reps would be hitting the pad fucking hard, because that's where the meat is. And then the last 10% might be simulation. And for that, we might go somewhere environmental. So I might go down into the stairwell, into the restroom, coming out the phone booth, go into my car, anything like that. In which case now, you would have some protective equipment on, you would have a helmet, you would have some groin guard, there would be dialogue, there would be role play. This is just to give you a feel closer towards what it would feel like in the context of a street situation, right? So again now, if you focus this helmet, all I'm adding to this, still pulling my shot, would be the role play and the dialogue. Now, when I get my hands in proximity to the weapon, particularly if he's holding me up, one thing you can take as a given is he fucking wants something from you first. In which case, you know, if it's in your wallet, your watch, your car keys, I would say give up your shit. you come in with nothing, you go out with nothing, and you can always get more shit. The only exception would be if he's trying to get me into a vehicle, if he's trying to take me somewhere to a secondary location. In which case, like I said before, we find that a secondary location is a crime scene in the body, so you've got to fight tooth and nail on first contact. This is first contact. But in either case, I would probably suggest to him that I'm going to give him my rent money, give him my wallet, whatever else. So you want to play the deception. It's very important that you're congruent. Your physiology, your facial expression, the words that you say, the volume, tone and pitch that you use those words should be congruent towards, mate, I'll give you what you want, please leave me alone. Now I'm going to a degree, switch off or turn down his adrenaline and have the opportunity to act plausibly, right? So in that case, if I'm here, excited in some way, what?